where I'm looking after a various integration technology, from solutioning perspective and from the design perspective. So in today's session, we will going to discuss about how we can secure the API as well as how we can secure the data. So basically how we can achieve the security at a multiple level, like at a transport layer, at a transit layer, and how we can secure the data at a rest, how we can encrypt the data, how we can sign the data, how we can decrypt the data. So we are going to see various techniques. So this is the agenda. So first, we will talk about why the API security is important, and what are the different threats and vulnerabilities that can attack the APIs and the data. Then we will talk about how we can secure the API using OAuth 2.0 and JWT. Then we will talk about some data encryption technique like data wave crypto module, then data encryption, JCE, PGP, and XML encryption and decryption. Also, we will see how we can enable HTTPS proxy. So these are the topics we will going to cover, and most of the topics will be based on live demonstration. So we will see at least 10 demonstration during this particular meetup. Then we will talk about what is API security, why we require the API security. So basically, as we are aware, API security is very essential, very important for your application, to make sure it doesn't get attacked by any hacker or anyone. So every day, there are hundred of vulnerabilities are coming, are developing on the daily basis, So how we can secure those API with those vulnerabilities and the threats, So MuleSoft has a capability they provide API manager. So in API manager, you can apply a various policy or various security policies, to save your API from such kind of attack, So let's consider we have a distributed denial of service attack, we have a denial of service attack, we have SQL injections, we have a PHP injections. So there are various kind of attacks which can make your resources unavailable, which can make your service unavailable, right? In that case, how you can save your API from such kind of attack, we're going to see in upcoming session. And apart from that, if you see API manager provide this a concept of proxy, on the top of implementation, you can create a proxy and hide your implementation. So basically what will happen, nobody can directly attack your application. Instead of that, they will come to the proxy that is known as the API gateway. So they will first send a request over the API gateway. On API gateway, we have a various validation, various security policies that needs to be passed before the request go to the implementation URL. We're going to see the demo on that, and also we will see how we can enable HTTPS proxy. So there are different type of attack like denial of service, sensitive data exposure, injection attacks like PSP, and SQL injection, ports, parameter tampering, distributed denial of service. So denial of service is nothing like somebody, somebody will try to send n number of requests to your server, to your resources. What it will do, so it will make your resource unavailable. It will make your system so busy, they will send a request with bigger payload, a large payload to your server, which will make your server unavailable. The server will hang, and then it will end up in the server will get crashed basically. Then it comes to distributed denial of service, where there will be the n number of boot, so let's consider boot 1, boot 2, boot 3. So everybody will send a request to server, so that particular server will get crash or will get hang and will become unavailable. Like that, there are other attack like injections attack. So somebody will try to send some SQL script or some PHP script, with your actual message. In that case, what will happen? It will go and run on your system, which will make your system unavailable and vulnerable basically. So these are the various attacks. So way to achieve API security. So MuleSoft provide a various things. So for securing your API at a transport layer, at a REST, at a transit layer, So we will going to see all those things. So one is the digital signature. It also provide a cryptography module where it provide a PGP encryption and decryption, PGP signature validation, and signing the message, JCE and XML. Apart from that, like it provide a various policy, and one of the important policies JWT or token based authentication. But to avoid, to make sure like our application doesn't get vulnerable to distributed denial of service or denial of service. In that case, you can use the policies like rate limiting, XML threat protection, JWT validation, and these are the various API security policies, like endpoint security, rate limiting is there, digital signature is there, policies like XML threat protection, rate limiting, OAuth. You can see all these are the various security policies available in your Anypoint platform. Even you can write your own custom policies, like for securing your APIs. So we will talk about the OAuth. So basically there are various OAuth provider. Okta is there, Ping is there, OpenAM, Keycloak, Cognito, GitHub, Box, Google, Auth0, Azure ADP, and the various OAuth have a various grant type, authorization code, client credential, refresh token, password, and implicit code. So OAuth is nothing; it's a technique, it's a technique of like securing your API, So let me go with some flow diagram to explain this in much better way. So OAuth JWT, OAuth support various type of grant types. One is authorization code, client credential, we have an implicit code, we have a password, then we have a refresh token. So we will discuss about two technique. One is authorization code and other is the client credential. So the first thing we will discuss about authorization code, how authorization code works. So basically in authorization code, we have a resource owner, we have an authorization server, we have a resource server. So resource server is nothing, it's your MuleSoft API, where the MuleSoft API is running. So authorized server and the resource owner will be like any OAuth provider can be a resource owner or can be authorized server. So let's consider the first thing, the client want to access some of my API deployed to the runtime manager or to the any MuleSoft server. So how we can do that? So basically, first thing we have to generate a client ID and the client credential. Okay, let's consider in that case, I will take the example of Okta. So in Okta, we have to generate a client ID and the client credential, and those needs to be shared with a client. The first thing, a client will send a request with a client ID to the authorization server. The client ID will request for authorization code. Now client want authorization code. So it will send a client ID on /authorize URL to authorization server. Now the authorized server will validate that client ID. If client ID is okay, then it will redirect to the resource owner. So it will prompt for the screen where you have to put your username and the password. So once you have put the username and the password, if everything is successfully your username and password is correct, then resource owner will say the person is authenticated and consent. Then authorization server will return the authorization code back to the client. Now client will send authorization code, client ID, client secret on the /token URL to the authorization server. Now authorization server will validate and return access token, which is known as a bearer token, to the client. Now client can call by passing a bearer token in authorization header, and resource server will validate the token using there's a URL called JWT validation URL. Using JWT validation URL, and that particular URL will validate the token. A token is successfully validated and it will return back the data to the client. Okay, if anything gone wrong, it will say that it's an invalid token. So let me explain once again. The first thing, the client required client ID and the client secret. We will provide a client ID and the client secret to the client. Client will send a request on the /authorize URL to authorization server where it will pass a client ID. The authorization server will validate a client ID and redirect to the resource owner. So where we have to put, it will open the screen where you have to put the username and the password. The client, resource owner, will check validate the username and the password. If everything is fine, it will say the user is authenticated and he's a true user. So now the authorization server will return an authorization code back to the client. Now client has to generate a token. So client will send client ID, client secret, and authorization code which was generated in the above step to the authorization server. So now authorization server will validate all this data. If everything is fine, it will return a access token, which is known as a bearer token. Now the client can pass that bearer token in authorization header to resource server. And in resource server, like when we are setting up the policy, we will configure this JWT validation URL. So client, like this particular resource server, will validate the JWT token. If token is successfully validated, it will return back the data. So if anything gone wrong, it will say invalid token. We will see the live example on this. The next, a client credential. There is a other grant type, the client credential. Only difference is that in client credential, there is a no resource owner. In authorization code, we have a resource owner. So generally, when we use the Facebook, so basically, like let's consider if you are using Swaggy or any app. So Swaggy asks like you can use your Facebook account to log in into the Swaggy. So where the authorization code flow come into the picture. Now let's consider client credential. So basically in client credential, again, we have to provide a client ID and the client secret to the client. Now client will send client ID and the client secret to the authorization server on /token URL. Okay, in that case, the authorization server will validate the client ID and the client secret and return the access token. Now client can call a bearer token in the authorization header. Resource server will validate the token. Token is successfully validated and return the data to app. Only one difference here, there is a no resource owner. Rest of the things remain same. There is a no authorization code generated here. Here we directly calling from this particular step, from fifth step. We don't perform 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. We directly calling from fifth step. Okay. So there is a difference between authorization code and the client credential. So let me go to Okta.
Hi, we have 2 questions. So can you say?
Yeah, I can say it. See, you can have it, okay? But generally for system to system, I will recommend it to go with a client credential. But in some of the cases, yes, we have to go with authorization code also, like where we have to put the username and the password, So yeah, so mostly people go with client credential for system to system or like machine to machine communication. But in some cases, like if you see some banking or, banking organization, so generally, I will tell you, sir, you don't have to worry about that. So generally, what happens? So let's consider like you have a web application, right? And like your client ID, the client secret, support or authorization code, and there's a bank, and bank have a web application. Now some user, want to access some API, some API. So what we have to do? Bank has to integrate, like bank has to provide that particular screen, So for us, we just want the token. Okay, the MuleSoft just want the token. We will share authorization server URL. We will share token URL with a client, basically. Okay, so or with the to the web application or to the client. So the client has to integrate all these things. They have to show the screen. They have to put the username and the password. The client will only send authorization token to the MuleSoft, to the MuleSoft resource server. Is this clear doubt, Sanmukha ready? Okay. Let me go and start configuring API. So I can go to application. I will add the first application, add application. Okay, here I can say web. So Okta development, Okta is a free. You can like register for it. So it's a free like you can sign up for free Okta development account basically. You can say next. Then here I can say Mule demo app. So I want to give a login redirect URL. In this my case, the client will be the Postman. So I will give a Postman redirect URL. So basically, what does redirect URL means? So when we are doing like this authorization code, so where this authorization code needs to be sent back, so that authorization code will come back on the redirect URL. So I don't want logout URL. I just want authorization code. So let me check if everything is fine. I don't want base URL also. Yeah, done. So I will get a client ID and the client secret. So yeah, so I got some client ID and client secret. Where is it? Yeah, it's here. I can copy on Notepad. Okay, this is my client and the scope. So you can go to API authorization server. So generally in my case, I have already defined. So by default, you will see one authorization server. It's a default authorization server. So I can click on this default authorization server. I can say scope. In scope, I have already defined a mule scope. It's easy, like just say add scope and define the scope. That's it. Okay. It's very simple. In my case, the scope is mule scope. Then I want my all the authorization server URL and everything. So before that, I have already deployed one API. So let me show you that a particular API. Okay, this is my API. So I can say test, and it's a post. I have body. I can take this JSON. It's a body. I can say send. So this is right. So right now, like I have this particular API. So now I want to apply a JWT value. I want to apply like, some policy on the data. Right now, my this API is not secure. So what I can do, the first step, I can go to API manager. In API manager, I can say manage API and I can say create new API. And I can say HTTP API. Right now, I haven't write any RAML. So I can say HTTP API. So I can say mule demo API. Let me check advanced if everything is fine. Next. So here I want endpoint with proxy and I will say deployment target is this only. It's a greater than mule, yes. Then I can say control V. This is my implementation URI. Then I can go to advanced options. Let me check if everything is fine. Yeah, here everything is good. Can save. Okay. So now what I will do, I can select this particular, then I can say mule demo proxy deploy. Any doubt on this particular flows, like to client credentials and like, I can take the question till application is deployed. Yes, Pradeep, JWT is used for authorization. Yeah. And also see, in case of authorization code, it will use for authentication and authorization both. In case of client credential, it will use for authorization. Let's wait while application is deploying. So till application is deploying now, like, so if you see the Postman, like, in Postman, like if you go to authorization, I will say OAuth2. And I want to configure a token. So what I want a grant type authorization code. Okay. I want callback URL. So what is my callback URL? This is my callback URL. But how I can get this auth URL, like token URL, from where I can get this? I want this access token URL. I want client ID and the client secret. So basically client ID and client secret, I have just copied. I can say client ID. Client secret. Scope is mule scope. Define state anything, just it should be unique state. That's it. Now I want this access token URL and auth URL. So in that case, you have to go to Okta. In Okta, you can see this on your authorization server, you can see this metadata URI. In this metadata URI, you will get everything. So this is my authorization server URL. You can copy this, go to Postman, and this is my token endpoint. Copy this and configure on the Postman. Okay. So let's wait while I'm seeing that my application is deployed or not. It should be deployed now. So let me go to Runtime Manager. Okay. So this is my proxy application. Copy this. No, I still haven't put any authentication. So let me check what response. I've got the response from proxy also. So now I can go to API Manager and I will enable a JWT validation policy. So basically JWT validation policy will be useful for validating your token, which you will be generating, right? So you can go to policies and also you need to search for JWKS URL, JWKS. So this is the URL for validating the token. If you copy this, you should not share this URL with anyone because this URL is contain a lot of public key and the private key for validating your token. So please don't share this URL with anyone. You need to keep with you. Then I can say apply new policy. Then I can go to JWT. Configure policy. So let me check. It's using RSA 256 algorithm. You can see it here, RSA 256. So I will say I will send a token in my header, RSA 256. I will provide a JWKS URL. Copy this URL. So this is my URL. I will skip client ID validation because if we are already doing it. So yeah, these are the settings you need to do on your policy. Just apply. So policy has been applied. These policies will be good for client credential as well as for authorization code. So let me generate a token. So now I have provided all these things: client ID, client secret, access token, URL, everything. Now I can say get new access token. So it should redirect me to the Okta. So where it has redirect me to the resource owner. I put my username, which is configured in Okta, and password. Sign in. Okay. You have to change this one thing. So just a minute. Uh, just a minute. You have to change this to client credentials in body. Get new access token. Okay, you can say proceed. So you can see you get an access token. Let me copy this access token. If you want to decode this access token, you can go to jwt.io. You can see what are the information this access token contain. So you can see it contains all this information, like, what is algorithm, and apart from that, it also contains some certificates data, all these keys. So this is how the access token is formed. Now let me use this token. If you click on use this token, what will happen? It will add this token in the authorization header. You see, it add the token in the authorization header as a bearer token. Now send the request. I got the successful response. Let me do one thing. Like I have to play with this particular token. I will put some data in this token. It should give invalid token error. Got invalid token because I have played this particular token. So you can regenerate the token. All those things. So let me get new access token. Proceed. Use token. Send. You got the successful response. Now what I will do, I will change this to authorization code to client credential. So client credential. Now when I try to send the request, no, sorry, I want to generate first token, get new access token. It will fail. Why? Because if you see in Okta, I haven't allowed authorization. I haven't allowed the like client credential there. So now what I will do, I will generate one more, key token for client ID and client secret for client credentials, basically. So I can say web, next. I don't want this all URLs. Let it be there. I can say client credentials. I can say done. I can copy this and like I will directly paste into my Postman only. Let me copy this also. Let me get new access token. Okay, I got that. For client credential also, I can use this token and I can send a request. Yeah, this is successful. If I do anything wrong with the token, if I try to tamper the token, it will give invalid token. See, any doubt on this client credential and all like, any doubt on this?
We have one question from Atul.
Hi Jitendra,
Yeah.
this is regarding that API snippet, right? Means in yes,
API
for the JWT token, right? So there was one API snippet option where we can see what we can enter in our YAML if we want.
Yeah. So basically, you can go to API manager, that policies, okay, and you can go to API snippets. You can see 1.0. So you just add the header, so header with authorization and description beer like that.
And can we customize it? Let's say I want one extra field or I want to edit some its field name.
Yeah, you can,
Then
add it. You can add it. You just add this. You can add some. You can define your own security schemes.
So that we need to configure in OAuth also, means in Okta, if we are adding some customization here.
No need to do that. Okay, it depends. Like for Okta, they just want the bearer token. Okay, so like that particular like JWT validation will read the token and send to the JWT validation URL. Okay, so you cannot customize the Okta basically. Okay, if you want to add additional data field, you can do that. If you want to also put the validation on the scope also, right? So there are something is available in JWT validation. If you want to like validate the scope and everything, right?
Whatever the fields are there, means for validation in Okta, we have to keep them as it is.
You can use it. You can validate. Yeah, you can validate the custom claims or any field you are sending, right? If you want to validate it, like if you want to validate like that particular like scope, right? So you can add this expression like this here, okay, and it will validate it.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. So I will go to next topic, how we can enable XML thread protection policy. So for now, I will remove this particular JWT validation policy. I think everybody have like nobody have any doubt on this. So if I remove this policy before I applying any new policy. Okay. So I have a lot of things. So let me quickly move on. So I will remove this policy. Now I will apply a XML threat protection policy. Why we want XML threat protection policy? So basically you can avoid a denial of service attacks, a distributed denial of service attack. You can restrict the payload. So basically in XML, you can get, a nested XML, right? You can restrict, like I want like up to 4 level of nested XML. I cannot accept more than that, right? So such kind of things like you can restrict. I want only 2 attributes. Such kind of things you can restrict from the XML threat protection policy. So let me apply a new policy. So there will be a security policy called XML threat protection policy. You can say 1.14. And configure. Okay. So by default, it's allowed everything. So what I will do, so maximum node depth, I will say 3. Maximum attribute count per element 1. Maximum child count, I will say 1, or I can say 2. Maximum text length, it must be like I can say 10. Maximum attribute value length 10, and maximum comment length 10. Okay. So I applied this policy. Let me apply that, and you will see it. So I applied the XML threat protection policy. So let me explain you one by one. So we will go through each and every attribute. So let me open this again. So just I want to show you what we have done. Let me pick one XML method. And I can So generally policy takes some time to get applied, at least 40 to 45 seconds. This is I can change this to XML. Okay. Let me send the request, or let's wait for a few seconds. I have already applied it. Let me send the request. So it's saying child count has been exceeded. Maximum allowed is 2. So basically here, if you see employee, in employee I have a child 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 childs are there, right? But maximum allowed is 2. So if I remove few of childs from here, okay, so let me send the request. Again, by child for under employees, I have a 1 child, I have a 2 child, I have more than 2 child for employees. I have a department also under employee, right? So I have to remove the department also. So let me send the request. Now, okay, what is saying? Something, just a minute. We start, okay. It should be slash here. Now it has been accepted successfully, right? So what I will do, I will increase bit of the length of the child element. I can make it to something around 10. No, not attribute. I want child count. I can make it to 10 actually, because I want it. So let's wait while policy is applying. No, it's not applied, because I increased the size to 10 basically. Let me check whether it changed or not. Not yet. Maximum allowed is node depth. Yeah. So if you see node depth is maximum allowed is 3. So node 1, So this is depth 1, this is depth 2, this is depth 3, and this comes to depth 4 basically, you know. So let me show you how it happens. I put depth. Okay. So if you see, this is depth 1, depth 2, this come to depth 3, and this come to depth 4. Okay, if I remove this particular thing, it should get successful. Okay, what again? Yeah, serious employees. So now it's work, right? Because we have a up to depth 3 is allowed. Fine. So now let me check other parameter. How many attribute count per element is only allowed 1. If I try to put one more attribute element, name is equals to something like this, it should give the error. It will say attribute count allowed maximum 1. So with each element, one attribute count is allowed. Okay, so let me remove this. Now the next thing, let me increase the size of this. So it maximum value allowed is only 10, right? I make the size increase, so that's why it got failed. So this is how you can, you know, like apply the XML thread protection policy basically. So let me send now. It is successful now, correct? So that is how you can apply a XML thread protection policy. Like you can restrict number of attributes, the text length, data length, all those things like using the XML thread protection policy. Okay, now the next demo we will see like how we can enable a HTTPS proxy basically. So basically like currently my requirement is that like this is the HTTP proxy. I want to change this to the HTTPS. So what can be done? The first thing, the first step, we have to generate a key tool, or sorry, a key store basically. So what I will do, I will use this particular command key tool gen key ls mule server key and where I want to generate a key store. So basically I want to generate a key store in my C drive and the certificates folder. I can remove all this thing. So what I'm doing, I'm trying to enable HTTPS proxy. So what I can do, I can copy this command, key tool command. So you can go to your JDK bin folder. So it provide a key tool utility. Paste this command. So you have to give a key store password. In my case, I'm giving MuleSoft as my key store password. The first name, I always give a local host. You can leave it empty. You can say yes. It will ask the key password now. So I will keep same MuleSoft. Okay, the key store has been generated. So if you see in my a key store is generated. For configuring like HTTPS proxy, you have to like set up the secret manager first. The secret manager is nothing, it's a store for storing your secrets, key store, and the trust store. And you can configure a TLS context also. So I will show that. So let me open a secret manager. So here you can store, trust store, all your secrets. The first thing I will say, create secret manager. Always make this as a downloadable. And I can say mule secret group. Then I can say save. Okay. Now you can go to a secret group. Then you can say edit. Once you say edit, you can go to key store. You can say add key store. I will say mule demo key store. It doesn't, it's only support mule key store. What kind of key store we have? GKS. Choose the file. You can choose your file from certificates folder. Okay, and what is your password? I gave as a MuleSoft. What is it? Mule server. What is key password? It's MuleSoft. And these are settings you need to do and save it. Okay. So now you have to go to TLX context. You have to create a TLX context, and that TLX context we can refer in our proxy. I can say add TLX. So TLS 1.2. So mule context. I can give some name like this. And target, I want the mule applications. And the key store which we have just generated, we don't want any trust store, and simply say save. Okay, now we have done this. You can go to secret group. We always do one mistake. We always forget to click on this finish, and you always make sure we click on this particular finish. Yes. Now I can go to my API manager. Okay. So in API manager, I can open this proxy again. Then what I can do, so what changes you have to do, you go to let me check, you go to advanced option. Okay, you just change this to HTTP to HTTPS and add the inbound context, TLX context. So in this new secret group and the TLX context which you have created, say okay. So these are the settings you need to do, and say save. Right, saved. And the port is changed to 8082. For HTTPS, it used 8082 port and redeploy. Any question? Yeah, Atul, yeah, it is possible. We have a JSON thread protection policy also. So you can make use of JSON thread protection policy for that.
Yeah. So there we can mention maximum number of arrays, right? Okay.
Yeah, you can do the same, like whatever you can do with XML thread protection policy, you can do with JSON thread protection policy also. So guys, what we have covered, till now, we have seen one demo, what is how we can enable Okta, authorization code for securing your API, then client credential. Then we are seeing how we can enable the HTTPS proxy. And also we have seen XML thread protection policy. So I'm waiting for my application to get deployed. Before that, any question? Anybody have any question before I move to next topic? Okay. So we will going to see some encryption and decryption techniques.
Jiten, I have one question here. Actually, what TLS setting you did inside Anypoint platform? Similar setting we can do in HTTP requester or HTTP inside.
Yes, you do that, right?
Yes.
When you create a HTTP listener, right? You have to do the TLS context setting there, right? You define your key store, you define your trust store, right?
Yeah. So if we do setting also, there only, if we do setting in there, then we need to do setting in Anypoint platform also.
No, see what happened. No, you don't have to do that. So right now, what happened? This implementation application, right? It's on HTTP URL, correct? I create a proxy in API manager, correct? And now I want to make that proxy as a HTTPS. So I will not going to download the project and I enable all HTTP, right? Better I can use the secret manager. I can store my key store there. I can create a TLX context and I can refer the TLX context in that proxy API. Right? Yeah, if you want to if you don't want to create a proxy and if you directly want to expose the HTTPS application like this, right? In that case, you can do at an application level in your Anypoint studio and then deploy it. Let me check HTTPS. Yeah, the HTTPS is started working. You can see that I got the successful response also. So now you have enabled the application on the HTTPS using the secret manager and the TLX context. Okay. Any doubt on this? Okay, I will go to my slide again.
Hey, hi Jiten, we have one question from Reena.
Yeah. So, Rina, yeah, I can show that. Like, I don't think like possible to enable the two-way authentication on the shared load balancer. You have to configure a dedicated load balancer for that. Okay, so you can do at application level, but not at the shared load balancer level. For that, you have to enable a dedicated load balancer. Okay. Anyway, so for shared load balancer, you cannot do that. Okay. So now we will talk about the DataWeave, a crypto module. So basically, like you can make use of DataWeave crypto module to encrypt any field. Unfortunately, like this crypto module doesn't like have a capability to decrypt it again. So it just encrypt the data. So it provide a various like MuleSoft provide a various function to encrypt the field within the DataWeave transformation. It can be achieved using various algorithms like MD5, SHA-1, SHA-256, SHA-512. To use the data with crypto, you have to import this import DW, a crypto library basically. So HMAC binary is one of the operator or one of the function provided by MuleSoft to encrypt any data. Same thing like it provide HMAC with it provide MD5, it provides SHA-1, then it provides H with. So let me showcase all these things to you. First, what I can do, I can say data with. Let's wait. Okay. So what I will do, I will have one small, just give me a second. Instead of that, what I can do, the first algorithm I will going to use is HMAC binary. Okay. So let me copy this. So for that, you have to import DW crypto. So you can say import DW crypto. The first algorithm I'm going to show you HMAC binary. So I can say HMAC binary data. Then I can use this particular algorithm here to see HMAC binary only. So this is my algorithm. So how many parameters it takes? So it take like secret, content, and the algorithm. Okay. So I can define any kind of secret like something like then this is my secret, and I can this is my payload, and finally it's we have to define algorithm. So it can be HMAC SHA-1, HMAC SHA. Let me see why this. Yeah. So if you do preview, okay, one thing it should be binary also is binary. So I'm waiting for my preview to get generated. So till that I can use the other algorithm also till it's generating the preview. The second is HMAC width, so we can make use of HMAC width also. So HMAC width, so copy this. So I have used the HMAC width also. This is my second algorithm. So let's wait while it's generating the preview. So you can see that, so instead of like Java, I can change it to JSON so it can see me better. So you can see like HMake looks like this. So HMake with it's look like this. So now the third algorithm is MD5. I will copy this. You can see MD5 data is also generated in MD5. We don't have to pass everything. We have to just pass data as a binary. So you can see the MD5 is generated. The next algorithm is SHA-1. So I can say SHA-1, crypto, SHA-1, and I can copy this again. You can see SHA-1 data is generated, and the last algorithm, I think it should be last only. You can see hash width. Okay, I will write better. Hash. Let me check the spelling. It is correct. So I can say crypto hash width and pass some data. I say as binary with a comma. This is SHA 256. What happened here? Let me check. Yeah, this is correct one. Okay, it's small h. Okay, so this is a different way of encrypting the data basically. So let me. I am waiting for my other data to come. Hash width, it should come. It's taking some time for me. So like this is how you can use the different algorithm for encrypting your any field in your JSON or anywhere. Like you can make use of that. Any doubt on this thing? Like on crypto module of database? So before I move to BGP, like JC and like XML encryptor, no? Any doubt on this?
We don't have any question till now.
Okay, thanks. So I will share all this code, later after this. So let me go back to my slide. So MuleSoft provide a cryptography module which consists of three kind of encryption and decryption. One is like PGP, a pretty good privacy, JCE, a Java cryptography extension, and one is the XML encryptor. Okay. So cryptography is nothing. It's a way of securing or way of like encrypting or decrypting the data when sending over the network or to any other source between two or more entities. In simple word, it is used to convert a plain text message into the encrypted message or into the ciphertext basically. MuleSoft cryptography module provides a various technique and the algorithm for securing the message. And these techniques are capable of encrypting, decrypting, signing, and validating data or messages. So there are three techniques. One is PGP, one is JCE, and the third is XML cryptography. I'll go to next slide. So first try to understand what is a public key and what is the private key. Then we want to use the public key. So public key is basically is used to always encrypt the data. We always share the public key with others so they can encrypt the data. So generally a private key is used to decrypt the data. So let me some mistake here. Let me correct it. It's a public key. So basically, public key is used to encrypt the data, whereas the private key is used to decrypt the data. So we never shared a private key with anyone. We always keep a private key with us. So if you see this particular diagram, where you see like, Bob's have a public key and Bob have a private key. So basically Bob's private key is always used to decrypt the data, whereas like Bob's public key is always used to encrypt the data. If you see this, Bob's private key encrypt the data, and when the data comes to this particular thing, it will use a private key to decrypt it. Generally, there are two type of cryptography. One is symmetric and one is asymmetric. In symmetric, we use the different keys. Like we use the public key for encrypting, we use the private key for decrypting. Whereas in asymmetric, we use the same key for decrypting as we use the same key for encrypting the data. So let's start with PGP. So PGP encryption is used for encrypting, signing, and decrypting the data like email, text, files, directory, whole disk partition. So basically, PGP is very useful algorithm when you are transferring the data over the network, because like it doesn't only encrypt the data, even it compress the data when it transfer over the network. So what advantage we are getting? It will reduce the network bandwidth. So basically, if my payload size is 10 MB, so PGP cryptography is capable of compress that particular payload as well as encrypt that particular payload while sending over the network. So public and the private key play a vital role in the PGP to encrypt and decrypt the data. Generally, a public key is used to encrypt the data, and it is always shared with the end user. And the private key is used to decrypt the data. It is never shared with anyone. Use of PGP cryptography, which is capable of compressing and securing the data when transferring over the network. PGP cryptography is capable of decryption, sign, and the validation. Before I move to demo, I will also discuss about JCE. So JCE stands for like Java Cryptography Extension. So there are two ways of JCE cryptography. One, you can use the password, and one you can use the key-based encryption. So we will see the example on both. So key-based encryption support JKS, JCK, PKCS. Whereas in PBE, like you just provide the password or secret, some secret for encrypting the data. So even like JC cryptography is capable of performing operations like encryption, decryption, signing, and the validate, like PGP. Then the third is XML. So the XML encrypt only is used to encrypt or decrypt the XML data. It will not allow any other kind of data. It will not like capable of encrypting or decrypting the JSON message basically. Okay. So let me move to my this particular Anypoint Studio. The first example we will see how we can use a JCE PBE algorithm to encrypt the data. So I will start configuring my listener. So here I can say /JCE. I am using PBE and encrypt. So generally what you can do, so here I will use for like a cryptography model by default is not available in your Mule palette. You have to like download from the exchange basically. Okay, so first is encrypt PBE. So PBE is nothing, it's a password based encryption. It's very simple. So let me give a name also, some better name. So you got, so I can say JCE PBE encrypt flow. Okay. So I start configuring this. So you have to just provide a password. So I can say, I can provide any password, MuleSoft 123. Then it is always recommended, like once you have done this, you can convert into the base64 string. So like you can say transform message Then also like, you can say import PW, or I can say binaries. I just want to import two is 64 from. I don't want to import everything. And simply I can say 2 is 64. Here. Converting my encrypted payload into the base 64. Here I can say logger. And I can say I want to type payload. This is my first flow. The second flow I will create for decrypt, So what I can do, I can say HTTP listener. Here I can say like, JCE, I can say decrypt. For decrypting, first we have to transform message from like, base 64 to binary. So here again, like what I will do, I can say import from base 64 from BW for binaries. Here I can say from base 64. It is not compulsory, but generally I do it. Okay. Here it's octet string. This is binary octet string. So I'm converting my payload back, back from base 64 to binary. Then I can use JCE cryptography, decrypt. It's very easy configuration. Just use the same password which you have used for encryption. It's MuleSoft 123. Okay. So this is the configuration you need to do it. Let's run the application. Any doubt?
Doesn't have any public or private key concept, na? In case of
Yeah, I will show you. I will come up with that. So I will come up with that. So I will show you. Okay, this is just a password base. I will go with key based authentication also. And also like I will tell you like, so I forget to show you one thing. You can select any algorithm. There are various algorithms. Now it's depend on your requirement, what your customer is accepting, like expecting. Like some customer will say, I want with MD5, I want with triple DS. So depending on that, you can select the algorithm. Right now I have selected default.
And in case of file generate, we are generating files with encryption. So we need to give extension as a JCE, because in PGP we are giving that one. Say I'm generating CSV. Yes.
It's
Dot PGP.
okay. It's not. I don't think it's necessary. Okay. But why it like it why we give it? But it is easy to understand for end user, right? When you send that file to him, right? So as a best practice, you have to do it. Okay. So let's try if my application is deploying. Till that, let me configure. So I can say HTTP localhost 8081 AC/pd encrypt, and then I will use this particular JSON payload. I put it here. So I'm waiting for my application to get deployed. Okay, my application is deployed and I will send this request. Let's see whether it's able to encrypt it. Yeah, we got this particular encrypt string. So basically it's a base64 format. So if you see this is your actual encrypt data, and then finally later on it converted into base64 string. Okay, and we got this particular data. I can copy this data, copy, and like I will try to decrypt now. Instead of encrypt, I can use decrypt, and it able to decrypt the data also, right? So that is how you can perform the encryption and decryption using JCE PBE. Now we will see how we can perform encryption and decryption using JCE KBE. So KBE is nothing, it's a key-based encryption where we require a key for encrypting and decrypting the data. Here we have seen like we require only password or any secret for encryption and the decryption. So let me create a new flow HTTP listener. Okay, so here I can give a same path. I can say JCE instead of KBE. I can say PBE. Sorry, it's KBE slash encrypt. Okay. Now again, I will use like I first let me drag and drop JCE encrypt. So this it's a key-based encryption. There is PBE is password-based encryption. So let me drag and drop key. Here we require some kind of configuration. Side, we have to do the module configuration. You have to provide a key store, and you have to provide what kind of key store and what is the password. So for that, I have to generate a key. So I will use this particular command, key tool, generate a secret key, and where I have to generate it, all this path. So I want to generate my key at this particular path in JCK format, and type is this. Store pass is MuleSoft, algorithm is AES, like all this thing. So copy this command. So let me check my certificate folder is there. And I can use the same key tool, and say enter. Okay, it's generated. Let me go to certificate folder. You can see that. So what I will do, I can copy this into source mean resources. Okay. So it's, let me copy this name also. Right. So what I will do, I will start configuring. I will click on this plus sign. Then I can say where is your key store? Key store name. Then it's type of DEKS, and I give the password as a MuleSoft. Here either you can configure a symmetric key, or symmetric key, or symmetric key. But in this case, I want to use a single key which can do encryption and decryption. I can go with symmetric key. If you want like a different key for encryption and decryption, you have to go with asymmetric. In this case, I will go with symmetric key. You have to give a key ID, anything like I can say AES123. Give alias. So what is the alias? The certificate alias. When you have generated the certificate, you may have given the alias. Yeah, this is the alias. Copy this and your password of the certificate. It's MuleSoft. Finish. Okay. Let's wait. It's taking some time. Now you have to provide the algorithm. So I can use like AES because in my certificate I will use the AES only. So I can say AES, like if you see in my certificate, my algorithm is AES. So I will say AES. Then always make sure you have to do one more configure that key ID. So what is that key ID? So that key ID you have give when you have configured a symmetric key info basically. Correct? So you have to give that particular key ID. So what we have given? We have given that is the AES 123. Now next thing, I will prefer to convert that message into base 64. Then I can say transform message. I will copy the code from above. It's the same way of transferring to base 64. Same way, we will try to create a decrypt also. Then I can say /JCE KBE decrypt. Okay. Then I have to drag and drop a transform message. We will convert a base 64 data into binary. I will copy the same code. Okay, from base 64, now I will use JCE decrypt. In this case, I can use the same module configuration. Everything remains same. And then I have to give the algorithm, which is AES, and you have to give a key ID, AES123. Save everything. Let's keep the ION console. I'm waiting for my application to get deployed. Yeah, it's got deployed. Then I will take one JSON message from here. I will paste it here and change this to PBE to KBE and encrypt. The data has been encrypted using Keybase also. Now I will try to decrypt same data. First, I will change this encrypt to decrypt. Okay, the data has been decrypted successfully. Any question on JC before I move it to XML encryption? No, there's a no, as such, there's a no limitation. See, there's a limitation on HTTP listener itself, right? Generally, it is not recommended to send a heavy data on HTTP listener, right? So, but in case of file or like, as such, there's a no limitation. If you have a file connector, like if you're reading from the file and you are, like decrypting or encrypting, there's a no limitation, Rina. So even like there's other way of message, like you can sign the message. It's the same process. Like sign is nothing like. So basically, like when you are signing the message, you are using your private key. Okay. Oh, sorry, your public key for signing, private key for signing the message, and public key for validating the message. So Atul, you have asked me one question, right? Have your doubt clear? Like we have used the certificate for encryption and decryption, like JCK, right? See, if you are creating .cer file, right? So generally you have to like create a trusted or JKS out of your CER file, and you can configure. So you are like you can definitely like import your .cer into a trusted, and you can configure the trusted there. Yeah, Jaya, is this your doubt, right? You can create a trusted out of .cer file, or either you can import the CR file in the trusted, and you can make use of that. Okay. I will go to next very important algorithm, that is the XML encryptor. Okay, so let me drag and drop a listener again. Okay, then listener, I will share all this code to GitHub. Okay, so you can get the code. XML, and I can say encrypt. So I want to encrypt the XML data. Okay, then I can use XML encrypt. Okay, here you have to do some configuration. Click on this plus sign, and you have to configure the key store. So like the key which we generate. So what I can do, I can use the same crypto JC, configuration. Okay, so you don't have to change this. You can use the same one. And here my key ID is EES123. So I'm using the same certificate. That's why I use the same configuration. So yeah, that is what you have to do the configuration for XML encryption. Then I can create the XML decryption also. And I can say else XML decrypt. I will use the everything is good. Here again, I will use the same configuration. Important thing, I have to give EES123 ID. Save everything. Let's see what happens. Let me change this path. XML encrypt. Let me copy the XML message. Okay. I'm waiting for my application to get deployed. It got deployed. Now send the request. You got this particular message. If you see Control A, I can paste it here. If you see, your whole data under account has been encrypted. Basically, all your SSN number and name has been encrypted. This is the cipher value. Now I want to decrypt it. Send. You can see your message has been decrypted. But my requirement is that I don't want to completely encrypt the data. I just want to encrypt the SSN. How can I do that? Simple. So basically, you can go to XML encrypt. There is a field called element path. So in element path, what you can do, you can say account / SSN number. I just want to encrypt the SSN number. That's it. I don't want to encrypt the whole payload. So you can go and element path, you can define that, and you can save all. Okay, send the request. Sorry, I have sent the wrong request. It should be encrypted. And in Notepad, I have this particular XML message. And if you see in this time, the name has not been encrypted. Only the SSN has been encrypted, if you can see, right? So this is how we can also encrypt a single field and complete payload, Now the question, like if I want to encrypt the JSON, how can I do that using this XML encrypt? Correct? So I have solution for that. You can use listener. Okay. /XML/JSON /encrypt. The first thing what I will do, I'll transform a JSON message into XML. That is my first thing. And I can use XML encrypt, okay, so I will use the same algorithm and everything. Okay, so let me show you before I so let me configure this first thing. The first thing, let me show you, if I try to send this JSON message over the XML, what happens? Over the XML encrypt. Okay. So instead of like XML, I can send the JSON. Let's see what happens. Let me send. It should give error. Could not create a signed document. So for that, what I can do, I create one more endpoint, JSON slash. See, now it's able to encrypt the JSON message also. And now I can use the decrypt endpoint. You can get this particular endpoint. But you want the result bank in JSON message, no? So it's very simple. Like in the front of this decrypt, you can put a transform message in the form of JSON. Save it. Okay, send. So you get output in the JSON also. So decrypted message the JSON also. So that is how you can perform, like you can encrypt the JSON message using XML encryptor also. Any doubt on this? So this is something you not find anywhere. Like I try to do one POC on that and I end up in getting this. Any doubt before I move to PGP? So are you getting right? So what I'm trying to explain, are you able to get those things right? Okay. So I will share this code with you guys. Okay, don't worry about that. So now I will use a listener. So I think this is like more 15 minutes. So I will complete with demonstration. PGP. I can use PGP. So I can use PGP encrypt. In PGP encryption, I want to generate some public keying and the private keying. Okay, so I want to provide those things. So I want to generate some keys. So for that, I will use the Git base for now. So I have Git base. So Git base is capable of generating a GPG file. So generally for PGP, we want some GPG file. So these are some commands. So GPG generate key. It's a first command. So there's the other tool is also available. So for now, I will use this particular thing. So real name, I can say mule demo test. Say mule at gmail.com, whatever. Say okay. So you have to provide a passphrase. In my case, I will just give as a mule shop. Take this one because it was a bit unsecure. That's why it's giving the warning. Okay. Okay, it generated that. If you want to, you can see everything is there. If you want to list down a key, so this is the command gpg list secret key. So this is my secret key which just now generated. Now I want to take out a private key out of this. So there is a command called, I can make this as a GPG output, and the where you want to output export, and this will export a public key. So I want to take out a public key. Enter. So if you see, it may have generated. It should. It haven't generated. Okay, so I gave the example like I want to give a proper email ID, so I gave it wrong. So you have to give the proper. It's a mule@gmail.com. I think export mule at this. Enter. Okay, it should generate a certificate. You can see it has generated a public key. Now I want to generate a private key out of this. So I want this particular secret key from where I can get it. So I have listed down the command. So this is my that particular key. You have to copy this. Then you have to go there and replace this with this. And I want to generate this at this particular location. Copy. Sorry, not here on Gitbase. It should have generated. Yeah, you can see a private key is also generated. So there is one important thing you need to pick out this particular key. This is the fingerprint of the certificate. You have to copy this also. You will be requiring this. Then 4. Okay. So let me copy these two files, a public key and a private key. This particular folder. Then I'm doing the encrypt. So for encryption, I don't want a private key. I just want a public key. Right? So I will just configure a public keying. So let me copy this particular name. .gpg. Then in this case, it always use the public key and the private key. So it's a asymmetric always, So you don't have to worry. It will be always asymmetric key info. So key ID, I can give anything like PGP123, a fingerprint. I mentioned you have to copy that fingerprint. You can copy this. For this public key, we don't have to give a principal or passphrase. There is no requirement. So public key doesn't have any password for that. So just say OK. OK. Yeah. So now next thing, the algorithm, you have to give a key which we have defined under asymmetric key info, that is PGP123. Now the next thing, you have to convert the message into a base64 string. Okay. The next thing, we will use a decrypt flow now, listener. I can say PGP decrypt. Okay, so PGP decrypt. Then you have to use convert base64 into binary. And you can use a PGP decrypt. Yeah, you have to do the configuration changes here. In this case, we have to configure a private key, because private key is used to decrypt the data, and we don't share a private key with anyone. .gpg. In this case, we require PGP123. A fingerprints, copy the fingerprints again. Here you have to give a passphrase, which is MuleSoft. So for private key, we have a password, which is MuleSoft. Simply say OK. Yeah, that's it. That's the settings you need to do. Save everything. Let me copy a JSON or XML, whatever I have it. In this. Let's wait while application is deploying. Okay, let me send the request. You got this particular message has been encrypted. Let me decrypt it. You got this particular decrypted message using PGP also, right? So this is how you can use a PGP, JC, XML for encrypting, decrypting, and the signing the message. If you see, I will show you even more signing also, like So let me open a listener, or like a HTTP listener. Sign and so you can do the configuration. For signing the message, we want a private key. And in that case, what you can do, you can use the same configuration, PGP1 and PGP123. Try to save the message. See, your message has been signed, and this is the signature of your message basically. Your message has been signed with this particular algorithm. So basically, you have to append the payload also and this particular signature. Okay, so this is how you can sign the message also using PGP. So yeah, so let me open this last slide before I close this session. So generally, like there are few recommendations, like always for API security best practices and recommendation. Always try to enable a multi-factor authentication or like IDP on your AnyPoint platform. Basically, always enable IDP, identity management, or multi-factor authentication for AnyPoint platform. Avoid using basic authentication when exposing the APIs to external user. Always use OAuth JWT client credential or authorization code. Always use TLS version 1.2 or higher to secure your transport layer. Always make sure like it's end-to-end HTTP secure communication. Always encrypt a sensitive data like SSN password, and MuleSoft provide various kind of cryptographic techniques like PGP, JCE, crypto module, XML encryptor and decryptor, enable identity for SSO or SSO for endpoint platform. Always apply a security policy to avoid like distributed denial of service or denial of service attacks, or any kind of PHP or SQL injection like rate limiting, spike control, XML rate protection. Secure APIs in the data at transit as well as at rest. Avoid logging confidential data like password or the social security number. Yeah. So thanks. Yeah. So Ravi, I have done with that. I done with my all the demos and everything.
Yeah, hi Jitin.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks for wonderful session. So now we will go for trivia and then we will close. So if anyone had any,
1 minute.
yeah, if anyone
Can I answer Dheeraj? I have a question from Dheeraj. Let me answer. Which parameter defined is secret? Even the key ID is visible. See, certificate itself is a secret. Key ID is just for the configuration purpose, right? No? So against the key ID, we are uploading the certificates. If you see, like we have a passphrase, we are uploading the certificates also. So that certificate and the password is the secret basically. Key is just the ID. For XML1, see, if you see, okay, you got doubt, like for XML also we have configured the certificate. We have used the same configuration which we have used for the JC. If you see, let me show you. If you see XML encrypt, see for XML encrypt, I have already this crypto underscore JC. I have configured this for JC and I use the same thing, same certificate. See, if you see it, it used the certificate, JCK, JCK, password, everything. Okay. Okay, it's the same thing, Dheeraj. So it is also using the certificates for encryption and decryption.
Okay, so if anyone has any other query, so you can ask. Otherwise, we will go with trivia and then we will close this session. So we will wait for 2-3 minutes. If anyone has any query, then you can ask. Meanwhile, you can log into kahoot.it. So I can see one question, Jitin. I can see one question from Reddy. Okay, so after this game, we can take this question. So let me share my screen. Why am I unable to share my screen? Sorry, Jitin, can you stop sharing your screen? Actually, I am unable to share my screen. Okay. Actually, we need to wait 2-3 minutes. Actually, Ethan is on another call.
Yeah.
So let him stop. Yeah. Can you stop your screen sharing?
Yeah, Sanmukh, like PGP validator is used to validate the signature of the message. Okay, so that is what it will do. It will validate. It will use the public key to validate your signature of the message.
I can see total 27 participants. So I'm waiting for 30 more seconds. Then we will start. Okay, how many participants we have? Okay, please everyone join as soon as possible so we can start. Okay. Okay, then I'm locking this game. If anyone want to join, if facing any problem, then let me know in chat.